Welcome to the Core 366 podcast, where we're pushing you daily to get back to the basics spiritually, mentally, and physically.
I am Apostle Sophia.
I am Minister Nikki Moorhead.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Core 366 podcast. And yeah, I'm just going to say, last week was heavy.
Yes.
And I'm not quite sure if I smiled any. I probably did just a little bit because it was so heavy. Like, if you haven't watched it, go watch it and then you'll see what I'm talking about. And tonight is going to be a little heavy, but there's a little comedy, just a little bit. There's a little illustration to go along with it, so y'all may laugh a little bit. I don't know, but we're still on heart checks.
Heart checks.
We may never get done with it. I don't know. What you think, Nikki?
There's just so much to heart checks. It really needed its own like mini series or something like that. Really.
Now you just came up. Don't y'all be trying to steal the idea.
Yeah.
Don't do that because I'm be upset. But no, so last week we talked about perspectives and we hit on like how you see God determines on how you see your spouse. We talked about authority, which we're still going to talk about authority tonight as well. And we were talking about how do you say it? Covenantal authority.
Yeah, covenantal authority. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because every time I want to say that, it be coming out of my head like convention. And I'm like, convention?
Yeah, it's covenantal. Yeah.
Covenantal authority.
You know, Dr. Tony Evans is where I got that from because he's real big on kingdom family, kingdom marriage, kingdom man. And he talks about covenantal authority all the time.
Yes. And so we talked about that. Yeah, we hit on this whole season, we've hit on some heavy stuff, but we were also able to just be a little light with it. But this perspective, it has everything to do with how we see, how we view, how we look at things. That was the synonym, the way we look at it, the way we think about it. And so as we were preparing for this episode, I was like, Lord, you're saying perspective again. What is like we talked about that a whole lot. So what is there else to say? Like what more can we say about it?
Yeah.
But the Lord was just talking to me about our relationship with our fathers. And when I say our fathers, I'm talking about our natural fathers, right?
Right.
And so the Lord said we got to start from the beginning. And I was like, okay. He was like, how we view our fathers determine a lot of stuff. And then there's this saying that we may have all heard, I don't know, but that says our fathers are our first love. And when I read that today, I looked at it totally different.
Right.
I heard first love and I was like, no.
Right.
And I know everybody didn't grow up in the church. I know everybody, may not know who the Lord is, but if you know anything, you know that our first love is supposed to be the Lord.
Yeah.
And then everything else falls behind it. So like for my husband, it should be the Lord. For me, it should be the Lord. And then it's us.
Right.
And then it's our children. And then everything else falls under that.
Right.
And so a lot of times we say these things that are like what cliches, or we say these quotes, not realizing what we're saying until we get an understanding or we get a knowing of what our first love is supposed to be. Go ahead, because I see you.
Well, I was just going to say that is so true. And, you've probably heard this too, but I'm sure you've heard you marry your father. Like the qualities that you find in your husband, they will resemble the qualities of your father. And most of the time we're drawn towards the positive, similar qualities. However, it's the character flaws and the defects that we battle with submitting to. I believe that's the stronghold of not being able to submit to that authority comes from like red flags or pings of reminders of those negative character qualities that are not favorable. And we kind of mix match that all up in our minds, and then it causes issues of disobedience.
Ooh,
So yeah.
that's good. Oh my goodness. And I'm gonna be while you were speaking. So okay. I'm gonna say this first and then I'm gonna say
Okay. Okay.
because I'm praying on the other part.
Okay.
But what that's why we supposed to our husbands, the Lord has ordained our marriage, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the Lord knows who our husband is. Excuse me, I'm sorry. The Lord knows who our husband is, and that's why we shouldn't be trying to choose who our husband is.
Right.
Because you see what I'm saying?
Right.
Because that's what we do. We like, oh, I want somebody like this, I want somebody like that. And then the Lord is like, but no, I have this, but my dad does this, and I just want somebody. But what if that was what your mom needed?
Right. Oh, that's good.
And you actually need something else.
Yeah. Yeah.
In your marriage. No two marriages are the same.
No,
there may be some similarities.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they all are going to want to protect.
Right.
They're all going to want to provide.
Mm-hmm.
They're all going to be the head of our homes.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a given, right?
Yeah. Right.
But they're not going to be the same. You know, they say, oh, they cut from the same mold. No, they're not.
No.
Mm-hmm. Because if that was the case, then why do we all have different fingerprints?
Right. Right.
You see what I'm saying? Like nothing is going to be the same. They may even look alike a little bit.
Right.
But they're not the same. And so, yeah. But I was sitting here thinking, I didn't choose my husband. I just know what the Lord showed me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, I'm about to go get my husband. And then the Lord was like, no, you're not. Like you are, but you ain't.
Right.
You're not going to, like, you're going to just, how the Lord said, I had you to just say that you were in town, that you were available. Mm-hmm. And that's it. The rest was up to him, whether he made a phone call, reached out or whatever.
Right.
But the Lord, and I was like, oh, snap. Like,
right.
And I remember my auntie asking me, she was like, so what you going to do while you're home? And I was like, I'm going to go get my husband. And she said, what? I said, funny. The Lord showed it to me. I said, but I'm not going to chase him though. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to let him know that.
Yeah.
I'm free.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Because we hadn't talked to each other in a couple of years. So.
Right.
How would he know unless?
How would he know? Yeah. Yeah. Not unless he was social media stalking you or something.
He don't even have it. So that
now,
would look, but his thing, we would have still been trying to get to this point.
Yeah.
But I didn't so I didn't grow up in the household with my father. Now I spent weekends with him and I got to see what kind of husband he was. But again, I wasn't trying to look for somebody like him. I was actually like how my uncle treated my aunt. It's really how I was like, I really I love how they love each other and how they just do for each other. Like that right there is what I looked at. I guess because that was a constant relationship in my face. And like my grandparents, how they would joke with each other. And I was like, I like that. Yeah. How they she'd be like, oh Frank, and he'd be like, oh Lily. And so like so, but it's all the perspective, and so how, like, if you didn't grow up in the household with him and how you saw him and like whether you felt rejected or you felt neglected or you felt unworthy of love because you was like, my dad does he not love me? You know what I'm saying? And so that could change the way you see things. But I'm gonna go ahead and give that illustration real quick.
Okay.
So y'all tell me what y'all see me doing. Y'all can put that in the comments, all that stuff and stuff like that right there. So y'all see one view, right?
Right.
But then when I turn this way, you see the actual view. Mm-hmm. And I remember seeing Pastor Mike Jr. do that illustration. Mm-hmm. And the people that was looking at him, from the front view could see that he was just either rubbing or scratching the side of his nose or his face.
Right.
But the people who was on his right hand, he was turned this way. Yeah. So the people that was on his left hand side, they couldn't see it, so they thought he was picking in his nose.
So they could speculate, right?
Yes, right. And so we may see one view of a thing and not really know what's really there.
That's so good. Yeah.
Go ahead. I see you.
Well, I was just going to say, Church of the Highlands, Pastor Chris Hodges did a sermon yesterday. I listened to just a plethora of stuff. Just inspiration. And I just love to listen to different leaders in ministry. And he said that we all suffer, humans, we suffer from nearsightedness in the sense that we're so guilty of only concerning ourselves with what we can see, like out here in the natural, that we're so consumed by the nearsightedness and the things that we can see. And so we don't give much thought to things of eternal value often, or things of, how about like all of the Christians that are fighting for just a scrap of piece of Bible scripture in China right now, or how about, those who are being oppressed in, I think it's at Cameroon is where it's at. And it's just that, like, those are, they're just striving and fighting, and they know that they could die just to get a piece of page of the Bible to be able to have the truth. Mm-hmm. Our society, however, we're so inundated with a church on every corner, but a lot of people don't have a real true relationship with Jesus, that the nearsightedness of it all was what the point he was making. And so that perspective has a lot to do with, I believe, how far you can cast your vision, how far you can see out in front of you, and how far you can allow your mind to grasp the concept that there's major other things going on.
Ooh. Okay. Ooh. I'm going to read this, what I found today.
Okay.
And it says, in the Bible, perspective is the lens through which people view life and God's role in their lives. It's shaped by what people know is true. Oh my God. And the Lord said, or what we think is true.
Right. That's good.
Well, he don't love me. Mm-hmm. Now let's talk about our husband. Oh, he don't love me. He don't want to do. I remember speaking to someone and I asked them a question. Okay, so, oh Lord Jesus, and this may be, oh Lord, I'm guilty of this. There were some things that I did in the beginning that I stopped doing. But then the Lord told me I had to go back, start back doing it, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But in that time, that in between when I wasn't doing it, I could see a change.
Right.
And maybe life got in the way, maybe work got in the way, maybe the kids, like they didn't really get in the way, but it's just like you get so busy living life that you forget. Revelation 2.
Right.
To the church of Ephesus, he said, you hate the things that I hate. You love the things that I love. This is what the Lord is saying to the church of Ephesus in Revelations 2, 1-7. He said, you hate what I hate. You love what I love. You basically, he's saying, like, you can smell when the foolery is coming from 1,000 miles away. You know it's coming. Somebody coming with some foolery. You can sense it.
Yeah.
But I have one ought with you. That you have forgetting your first love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm going to need you to turn, repent, and go back to your first love.
Right.
If you do not do this, I'm going to blow out your candle.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Right.
no. So that means like the light will be gone, right? And so we start out one way and we have such good intentions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then somewhere down the line, whether we got a, oh, my see, y'all, this is, remember we said that this can go for any part of your life.
Yeah.
And I believe it's going to hit on from your marriage, for the wives in waiting, how the Lord has been dealing with you over the last couple of weeks.
Right.
And he's reminding you, he's saying, what I was showing you then, I was preparing you for this conversation.
Right.
Because we start out, we got good intentions, whether we can end up having a puffed up spirit, being prideful. Oh, well, I see. I got him now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We get that mindset, right?
Right.
But then we don't, but things begin to change and we're like, oh, well, he ain't doing it. And he used to do this. And he probably said the same thing about you in his head.
Probably, yeah.
She used to cook me breakfast early in the morning. She used to get up and I used to, there was some stuff. He was like, you ain't got to do all that now. Mm-hmm. But because I just felt like I was like, well, it's cold outside. Like his car should be warm when he get in the car. Like, let me go and like turn the car on and stuff like that. He was like, what? He said, do you think I want you to go outside and be turned the car? He was like, if you think it's cold for me, it's cold for you. You ain't got to do all that. He said, but I love everything else. And so I ended up stopped doing it. Right. But then I began to see things like change, like little bit by little bit. Yeah. And I don't think it was, I know it wasn't on purpose. Mm-hmm. It's just that like things started happening, right?
Well, that's what's the saying goes, if the enemy can't slow you down or stop you, he'll get behind you and push you real fast where you're so busy. And it may be good stuff. It could be ministry stuff. It can be positive things that have to happen for life. But if you're too busy to stay in covenantal relationship with the Lord, then it affects, the decisions that you make on a daily basis in your interpersonal relationships.
Yes, yes. And so then one day, the Lord said, I'm going to need you to get up and start back doing what you did in the beginning. Mm-hmm. And I was like, say what now, Lord?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, I'm over here like my schedule is. Mm-hmm. And I know what time you got to get up and I got to get up too.
Right.
But the Lord said, I'm trying to teach you something and I'm trying to show you something.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And then the Lord ended up rewarding me for it, right?
Yeah.
Threw me completely off. I didn't know nothing about it. The Lord. And so then I ended up doing a video that says that the Lord is going to reward you just for being you.
Yeah.
Just for being who he called you to be. Mm-hmm. Not a perfect wife, but a godly wife. Mm-hmm. A wife who keeps her word. Ooh,
that's good.
Lord, forgive me for any time.
Yeah.
Like that just hit me right there. Like that's what that video. Remember I told you I did a video and I was just talking. Yeah. Yeah. And the phone was in the room and I was in the living room and we heard nothing but what I was doing in the living room.
Yeah.
But couldn't hear me. You could hear me whispering. And I was like, I done did 25 minutes of nothing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it blessed me though, because maybe it was only for me. I don't know.
Right.
But basically that's what the Lord, because I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember exactly the wording the Lord gave me.
Yeah.
The Lord said, for keeping your promise, for keeping your word.
Right. Right.
That's why you get to do this. This is why you get to talk to the wives and the wives in waiting, because I know that you'll keep your word. I know that you
follow. Yeah.
And so
just being
I'm gonna say this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, say that again.
Just being faithful with little, he gives us much when we can prove to be faithful with little.
Yes. And so the Lord was like, I need you to go back.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times we like to go and we talk about what they're not doing, but we don't talk about what we stopped doing that caused them to stop doing what they was doing.
Right.
And so it makes it look like we're the good guy. Like, oh, yeah, oh, she's doing that and he doesn't do this. And so that's why it's important that, remember, we talked a couple of episodes ago about how are we talking about them? Like when we do heart checks, like what are we saying about them when we go out and talk?
Yeah.
Because I'll tell people, I'll be like, yeah, like we may have had some disagreements. I said, but I ain't gonna say that it was his fault. I said, because 9 times out of 10, it was me.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
And I brought that. Oh, Lord, what? I'm sorry, y'all. I heard arrogant.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow.
That sassiness and that attitude into my marriage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it caused delay in some areas. Girl, you know, just go, because I'm over here. I need a fan. Just put me, look, y'all, I'm whispering. I'm talking to Nikki. Just put me on Front Street. Embarrassing me in front of company. I know y'all heard me too, but I'm just saying I had to whisper, let her know that's specifically for her. Like,
I like to think about it like this sometimes. Like, okay, so if we know that God made men and women so differently, his design for us is so different. So, and just say, like, for instance, just say you have a husband who struggles with a heart of flesh versus a heart of stone. And say that you both love the Lord, however, your husband struggles more than you do. Okay, so if God made you the wife of that husband, and you're supposed to be able to change his life by just your chaste and your character and not saying a single word, that means that your demeanor has to be anti-arrogant. It has to be like the total opposite of that. It has to be inviting. It has to be submissive. It has to be meek. It has to be gentle. It has to be underneath a level of where his arrogance could rise to, if that makes sense. Like that fleshly pride and arrogance has to yield to his, basically submit to it so that he can feel comfortable to allow his to fall. That was good.
Wow. Yes. And so I said, Nikki, I said you was gonna be doing a lot of the what happened?
Right.
So I'm gonna tell y'all something. Every time I be like, ooh, somebody gonna be on the floor today in this service. The Lord showed it to me.
It's gonna be you.
It always ends up being me. And I'll be like, nah, how did I get down here? Who pushed me?
Yeah. You're not alone though, there. You're not alone. No.
So, and I know y'all like, well, where in here is perspective? Because when we go tell these stories, when we go talk about these, we're seeing it from but because I'm seeing so many different animals and stuff came into my mind. We're seeing it from, okay, I'm gonna say the first thing I heard, which was a bird's eye view. You know, birds can see far, but they can't see really far. But an eagle eye view, eagles can fly higher.
Right.
I can fly higher than an eagle. Okay. Right. Anyway, the eagles can go up higher. And so that way they get to see more of the land. They get to see more of the territory. They get to see more of the region.
Yeah.
And so the Lord is saying that he was saying, like, your ways are not my ways. Your thoughts are not my thoughts, right? And so the Lord can see all of these things. He knows the outcome of when you're not submissive and when you are submissive. And when you are in his perfect will and his permissive will, right? When you're in covenantal covenantal authority and when you're not, when you are interceding and when you're not. Like the Lord can see, the Lord already knows. He knew the end in the beginning. And so when your perspective is just like you're nearsighted, like you can, and I'm guilty of that sometimes because I'll be like, it's not that I don't want to think about the next, but I'll be like, I be so fragile. Like I treat it so fragile. Like I'm like, I just want to get in the door first. Not thinking about long term, right? And so I think that puts delay, right? So instead of me seeing past this bottle of water, I'm only seeing right here. Well, maybe he may have had a bad day. I talked to someone the other day and they said something, and then when they came back later, they was like, "Oh, it was the wrong timing." And so, timing is everything. Sometimes we step outside of God's time and we're like, I want it right now. Like for me, the Lord said, I wanted to deal with those things. I wanted to deal with your trauma. I wanted to deal with your daddy issues. I wanted to deal with all of that outside of your marriage, but that's not what you wanted. So I had to deal with it inside of your marriage. But because I made your husband for you, that's the only reason why he didn't win nowhere. That's the only reason why he didn't go nowhere when I was dealing with you in your stuff.
And too, we have to bring the past into the present if it's still something that trips us up. So like when you text me earlier today and I knew kind of where things were headed for tonight's episode, I thought to myself, how fitting is that of the Lord to do that? Because so many things this last year for me has been brought from the past up into the forefront, my future. It's been put back in my like nearsighted vision.
Those deep rooted things.
Yes. And the Lord really wanted to, like, some situations I have to sit and meditate there for a minute. Sometimes those situations require me to do something about, like, I receive a specific instruction. Sometimes those situations or those things are brought there just so that the Lord can heal them and we can kind of pray about them and talk about them for however long, until they're put out of my mind again. And it's just the way that he wants to move us again from manna to milk and honey, or from milk to meat. He wants to develop that emotional, spiritual maturity within you, because if things from the past are continuously tripping you up or keeping it to where you can't advance into the next thing that God has for you, they have to be dealt with. They can't be buried. They can't be forgotten. You can't pretend like they didn't happen. You can't even, the Bible says you're not even supposed to wish that they didn't happen, because, God wastes nothing. All things work together for the good of those that love him.
Ooh. Wee. Yes, Lord. Yes. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Those deep rooted things, those things that we have did this with, and we kept, and now the rug used to be like this, and now the rug sitting, because it's so much. And the Lord's like, okay, so today we're going to unpack daddy issues. And you're like, well, I don't want to deal with that. Well, then the Lord said, okay, then we'll deal with the mommy issues. And you're like, oh no. And then the Lord's like, okay, let's deal with your stubbornness, your rebellion. Did you? And I didn't know this, that rebellion is witchcraft. Unto witchcraft. Baby, let me tell you something. I was like, Lord, doesn't deliver me. Because I did not. Because you know how, like, there's some scriptures that, so I grew up in a church, y'all, and they said that I was leaping, and my mom would be like, I don't know. So she was in the church shouting, and they was like, girl, you need to sit down. And she was like, I can't. And it was like every time she would walk through the door, that's what she was doing. I was like, what y'all want me to do about it? I was in her belly. I don't know. I was in the womb. But I've been my whole life, right? But even though I had been in there my whole life, there were certain things that I did not know until adulthood. Like there were certain scripts, like I wasn't going and reading the word for myself.
Right. you counted on somebody else to do.
I just got what I got when I was at church, and then like whatever we did at home, like if my mom would go over different stuff, but I didn't actually go and pick it up and read it for myself.
Right.
And so when I became an adult and I began to grow and mature in my relationship with the Lord,
right,
I found that out, and I was like, hold up, pump your brakes.
yeah,
And so how we see things, how we view things, it plays a significant role in our marriage, in our parenting, and our relationship with the Lord, all of that. And it was something you said a few minutes ago that reminded me of something I read today as well. Let's see if I get to it.
okay.
Man, where is it at? I know it's right here. Look, y'all, I'm sorry. Oh, here it is. A particular, biblical perspective definition in American English. It says a particular perspective is a particular way of thinking about something, especially one that is influenced by your beliefs or experiences. And I think we hit on the experiences last episode.
Yeah, that's good. Mm-hmm.
So our experiences. So like maybe we had we didn't have a so good relationship with our father, right? And so when we begin to grow, get into the church, and we get saved, and then they say that the Lord is your father, and you're like, oh nah, wait a minute, hold up, because my father, right? But that goes back to that bird's eye view. We can only see that, like our natural dad did this.
Yeah.
So of course, like we think, okay, well, our spiritual father gonna do the same thing, but the Lord, he's not a man that he should lie, nor the son of man that he should repent.
Right.
So if he said it, it is so. If the Lord said that he loved you, that's what he meant.
Yeah.
Right.
That's good.
And so the Lord is wanting to mature us. He's wanting to change our sight, just like he did with Saul.
Yeah.
And he didn't. Apostle Paul, right? Though I spoke about this in the last episode, I said that the Lord showed me where he took his scales in order to remove what the enemy had placed on the eyes of Saul.
Yeah.
So that his perspective changed, because he said, I was zealous. I went based off of what my fathers said, those who taught me what they said and how they said to move, not realizing that was not the right thing to do.
Right.
And so his whole perspective had to change. And for 3 days, he couldn't see?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And so it's Ananias, right? Yeah, I'm sorry. Had to go and pray for him, right? And when he put his hands on him, the scales fell, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so his perspective had to change. He had to sit in that. He had to sit in that thing so that his mind could be renewed.
Yeah.
So that he could teach. There's so much that we can learn from what he's put in this Bible, what the Lord spoke through him, right?
Yeah.
And so he talks about being transformed by the renewing of our minds. And so the Lord is saying, I want to renew your perspective.
Yes.
I want to take you from those deep rooted issues that you have with men. Let's talk about that with men.
Yeah.
And I want you to see how I need you to see. I need you to see that this is truly your husband. I know you're going through whatever you're going through, but this is him. I know it looks like this, and I know it may seem like that, but I'm gonna deal with your heart first. And then when I deal with your heart and I renew your mind and I renew your sight and I renew your hearing, because I was hearing what I was interpreting, the way I was thinking and looking at things was, oh, he don't think that, I'm good enough. Right? Yeah. But that's not what he was saying. And so it's perspective and how I look at things, how I was thinking of, how I was viewing things, right?
Yeah.
And so the Lord is like, no, the Lord had to sit me down. He was like, I need to go talk to the pastor. When talking to the pastor, he was like, that is not what that means. You just took that all out of context. like that is not what that man is doing.
Women.
I said, well, I didn't grow up in the house with my dad, so I didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's so important because what is it they say? Parenting and trying to discipline and raise a child is such a delicate matter because everything that we say and do it affects everything just like it does in your adult relationships, but especially more so with kids because they have an even narrower nearsightedness or an even narrower mindset. They can't grasp the concept and ideals of an eternal God and eternity quite yet until a certain age.
Mm-hmm.
And so, parenting and raising children is a delicate matter. So when, you know, we, like you said, God wants to heal those deep rooted issues that we have with perspectives of men. And I know a lot of wives in waiting, or, and a lot just women in general, we've been sexualized or we've been assaulted or we've been abused or we've been taken advantage of because we're the weaker vessel. Unfortunately, due to the consequence of sin as of humanity, women are prey to those things and therefore we get wounded by those things. And then we can't even gain a large enough or see past this man that comes into our life, and we can't trust what they say and what they do because we don't have the capacity to do that. And maybe they're trying to constructively criticize something about things and you're like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
no, you're not going to tell me that I'm not, but like you said, that rebellion, that defiance, that those kinds of defects are birthed out of deep trauma, right? Those kinds of
Yes.
defects are birthed out of like traumatic incidences and made like unhealed wounds that have deep roots, like you say, those things that if not dealt with properly, especially if if it's the season that the Lord's trying to work that out through you, it's because he wants you to move past that to get to what he's got for you next, and he
Yes.
doesn't want you to sit in that constant. And I know that for a fact because I sat in my constant issues with this same recurrent issue for years and years and years, like longer than I want to admit that I did.
Exactly.
But there was so much unresolved trauma, there was so much unresolved baggage, there was mistrust. I couldn't even trust my own thoughts about some things, because I had been told things but my memories were different than the things I had been told. And
Mm-hmm.
so much of that going on until the Lord was able to bring clarity to those things for me.
Yes, because if you can't trust your own thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
have a screwed or a distorted
Mm-hmm.
perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And my husband even said that at one point in time about a year ago. He said, sometimes I say things to you, and the way that you hear them tells me that your perspective is so distorted. He's like,
Woo!
yeah, and that was one of those things that pierced my heart because, you know, that was one of those situations where I'm hearing one thing and he's saying something totally different. Yet it's
Mm-hmm.
piercing me right here because the way I'm interpreting it hurts so bad. And he's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. That's not even, that's not what I meant. Or, you know what I mean? How did you even put those two together? And I'm like, how did you
Yes.
not? You know?
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. Because that filter that we have that everything is going through.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it just made me think about so if you ever watched the Cosby Show, the
Mm-hmm.
episode the episode where Vanessa brings Dabness for the first time. And I liked the Dabness. Dabness was a cool dude, right? And so, but Bill Cosby was like, this is how, so when you have a distorted view,
Mm-hmm.
you see that filet mignon and that baked potato and these different vegetables and all broccoli, whatever, you see it on the trash can lid. That's what you looking at. You're like, Lord, you gave me it's
Yeah.
on the trash can lid. And the Lord is like, he's in a Ferrari. What are you talking about?
Right.
But I mean, y'all get what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
but that's how we see it. We see all this good stuff, and then we're like, it's
Yeah.
on the trash can lid.
Right.
He was like, that's how she brought us to you on a trash can lid. And then he was like, oh, I got my own house. He was like, go get the man some dessert.
Yeah.
But now when our view changes, we're like, oh my goodness, this is the best thing that God could have ever gave me.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't just see me as a woman, but he sees me as something more than I see myself as, right?
Yeah.
Because his perspective is on point, right? But ours is distorted. It's I keep hearing, what is it, screwed, or like I keep seeing that's another word and I can't, y'all. Amen. But distorted.
Yeah.
And so we see it like that. And the Lord is like, no, this is like the purpose that y'all have together, the power that I place on in both of you. Like, but if I could just get you to see it for what it really is, not for what you think it is or for what you thought it was, but what it really is. I need you to see it for what it really is. I need you to come up higher. Ooh.
Yeah. I'm hearing that the perspective is secular and it needs to be spiritual.
Ooh, because if you could see who he is in the spirit,
right,
you'll be like this.
Yeah.
Read another scripture to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Be me. Just read one more verse. Matter of fact, just read the whole chapter.
Let me just sit here.
I'm serious because it. So you know how I've shared this before. I said that we're not their peace, but we set the atmosphere so that it's conducive for God's peace to reside, right? And so like in that moment, it's setting an atmosphere for me to just be like,
yeah. And now you see why it's so important that you can't bring arrogance into that atmosphere.
Yes.
Because then their secular arrogance is going to rise up to challenge yours, and then nobody's
just chaos.
Yes, just
calamity.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Blowouts. Just the tires that went flat. You stuck on the side of the road.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's why wives in waiting, the Lord is wanting to deal with those things now. So that, as Nikki said in a previous podcast episode, that you don't have to go through the things that we went through. And we're still growing. Yes. But those things that we've already gone through, the Lord is using those things to help us help you.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so we have to remember that this is not to put anybody down. This is not to make you feel bad, but it's to show, okay, if the Lord can fix the screw ups that we were, he can do it for anybody.
Yeah.
Like you could have just did one thing could be off, and the Lord is like, okay, you good now. He's coming.
Right.
He probably won't tell you that he's coming, but you're prepared. So when he do come, you already know.
Yeah, these experiences of strength and hope that we and hard learned lessons that we get to share with you guys, they're the purpose and the mission, is really and truly to help you find the victory in the valley, and to know that that's valuable to us, because victory in the valley coming sooner than defeat in the valley is so much better. And it gives purpose and meaning as to why we had to walk through certain things and be brought to a place like this to be able to share those things with you, because a lot of times what we go through is not for us. It's for who we can help it with it. It's for the story and the testimony that comes from it. It's so that we can take that knowledge and information and experience and share it with a sister who may be headed towards a similar situation, and possibly, just totally radically prevent a major catastrophe.
I heard halted right there in the spirit, like just halted right there in the natural. Like what I saw was like somebody the car, like the brakes, like leaving rubber marks in the road, because they're like, oh my goodness, I almost messed up. Who was it? The road runner? How he stops immediately.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my goodness. Okay, let me go back. I almost messed up.
I'm telling you, man, I have some hard lessons.
Yes. And so I'm just over here, y'all. Sorry. I just realized something. Because I was like, I think it's probably couldn't try to cut off. But yeah. Oh man, that was good.
Yeah.
Are y'all being blessed by this? Listen, if you're not, I know I am.
I know I am too. I know
And I know
am.
y'all probably like they went through it and came on the other side, but it's still something about when you begin to give your okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Nikki.
Well, I was just gonna say, so like a year ago, today versus where my marriage was a year ago is just, oh my gosh, it's just worlds apart in difference. Okay. We started that 31 days of prayer for a husband's devotional in January, and I've done it every month for the last 7 months. So, like, just from my answers to the different questions in January and February and March versus July, it's just like my perspective has changed so many different times because what seems like a major significant need here in July is like a glory story compared to the prayers that God had answered this time last year. Like what seemed like my perspective about things, it's very humbling, I like to say, because it's like, golly, in the grand scheme of things, if I can shift my perspective to the supernatural and see just how much ground we've gained as a couple, as a family, as a marriage, versus where we were and the steps that we couldn't even sustain, without God's presence in the midst of it. It's just amazing to me because of the vast differences, and it's a heart check and a perspective shift that allows me to be able to see it that way. And that right there in itself it has been significant for me, being able to see it like that.
Yeah. And while you were saying that, I was hearing we have to be willing.
Yes.
We have to be willing, because if you're not willing to, okay, I think I hit on this a little bit. I said like a drug addict or someone who's an alcoholic, like you can tell them all day that they need to stop, and you can have those interventions. That is perfectly like, go ahead, do what you got to do.
Yeah.
But until they truly see it for themselves, so you have to be willing. The spirit is willing, but the
flesh is weak.
Yes. And so, but we have don't wait until you sick and tired of being sick and tired.
No.
Because again, that delays everything. Yeah, it delays. And then you're like, well, Lord, you said you was going, and the Lord is like, but you have not made up your mind.
Right. And remember, delayed obedience is 100% disobedience.
Yeah. So. And the Lord is saying, I need you to do it in this season, because the season that's coming, I need yes, Lord. I need you all to be at a level of trust and everything with each other that is like that nothing can shake it, nothing can tear it down, nothing can come in between you.
I feel
like it need to be like this.
Yes. I feel that too, that unwavering. I need that, like the Lord's been like, I need that to be like, no matter what, any and all circumstances. I need things to be in alignment, unwavering, without a doubt. And I like, almost like you said, like I feel as if like it's specifically for a reason. Like there's things coming as a create that we're going to encounter as humans, and then as the world progresses and things progress in time and history, that we need to be prepared for. And if our foundation isn't firm, we're going to end up right back in these same situations, dealing with these same recurring traumas and issues. And
and how we get a firm foundation. When you said that and you said it, I was like, and the Lord was like, you gonna write it down? So it's a song called Firm Foundation, and it may not be called that, but they say that in that song. And that's what I was hearing when every time you said firm foundation, all I could think about was Christ is my firm foundation. So if you allow the Lord to be the head of your marriage, and again, I've said this before, it's not that things will not happen, but you are able to sustain.
Yes.
You're able to, so we watched Twisters, the new one, the 2024. I can't remember his name, but he was the wrangler, the tornado wrangler. So on his truck, he had so the young lady who is like the main character of the movie, I'm sorry, y'all ain't seen it. Well, anyway, she got this stuff going on with her. And she, because of how he acts, he has like a little arrogance about him, you know those cool dudes that can't nobody touch him and stuff like that. But that's not who he really was. Like, he did it for the page, the YouTube and all that stuff like that. But the core of his being was really grounded in helping the people.
Yeah.
His core values and his foundation was to help the needy, all these. So the stuff that he was doing, all of that, all that hype stuff that he was doing was for the views and the money. But what he did with the money was amazing and great things, right? And so she didn't see that at first. But on his truck, he had. So when we talk about firm foundation, Christ is my firm foundation.
Yeah.
He's the rock on which I stand, and we're planted in him, right? We're supposed to be planted in the Lord. And so, amen. Ooh. And on his truck, he had this button. And so when a tornado would come, sometimes he would drive in. Okay, anywho, on his truck, he had these drills that go in, these things that go into the ground and literally locks the truck into the ground.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's probably why I had to see that before we did this one.
And
lock, and it not only does it lock, but then it takes his truck and it scoots the truck down.
Yeah.
And so
hunkers it down into place.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
So that all this out here can just be chaos. However, nothing right here is affected. Like, everything right here is secure, locked in, not going nowhere.
Ooh.
Nothing's going to change about it.
No.
other than gratitude, maybe.
Yes. And so when you said that it made me think back to that.
Yeah.
And how that firm found, and he had to dig into it. He had to that truck had to. Whew. And all I could think about was what you said last episode. This is the way. Now walk in it.
Now walk in it. Yes.
Woo.
Yes. Yes.
Listen, if y'all ain't being blessed, it's okay, because we are.
I know. I was telling a friend the other day, I was like, I know that I heard specific instructions for other people. I don't know who they were for. I said, however, this is the way, now walk in it. I've been hearing it over and over and over and over again. And it's almost like the Lord's like enough, like I've told you, like, enough is enough. I have things I need you to do. I have things that I want you to overcome. I have things that I want you to get prepared for. I have people that I'm going to put in your path. I have reason, you know what I mean? Like, I'm starting to be able to see a supernatural perspective for, God's will for my life, I guess is what you could say.
Yes.
And they say, statistically, they say that Christians, their number one prayer request around the world is to know God's will for their life. And it's one thing to say, oh, I know I'm called to ministry, and I know I'm called and I was created to be a disciple. However, it's another thing to say, okay, God, I can see this unfolding right in front of my eyes. And I know that because of how I know who you are and how you operate, that this is only going to get bigger and better. Then, you know what I mean? I'm starting to be able to see that without actually seeing it. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. Yeah. That unseen, but know that you've seen it.
Yes. Yeah.
You got to see it before you see it.
Right. So yeah.
Y'all take some notes, leave some comments.
Yeah.
Listen.
Yeah.
And just in case you forget, it's still available. I'm gonna go ahead and pop it up there for you guys. There you go. Scan here to get getting back to basics, a return to reality, becoming a godly wife in 21 days.
Yes.
Listen, that gets your footing. Because when we say standing 10 toes down, that gets your footing to 10 toes down. Like, oh, I see what the enemy was trying to do.
Right.
Okay, trying to use me to tear down my marriage. Okay, a wise woman builds her house. The foolish tears it down with her hands. And so the foolish tearing it down with her. The enemy want me to be foolish.
I know.
And I'm not going to be foolish no more.
No.
So y'all go get your copy, and guess what? It's digital, so you can just download it as soon as you purchase it. Okay?
Yeah,
you don't get no better than that.
Yeah. Well, this time that you spend on like TV and reading books and whatever, and just impart wisdom and education. Yes. It's one of those things that you see the return on it later on, but it's so valuable to do that. Like before we go to bed at night, and this is just something we do. If my husband has had the remote, 9 times out of 10, we're watching something that's kind of chaotic, because you know how guys are. They like guns and fighting, and they just like all that. I don't like to go to sleep with that kind of stuff. I just don't, because it messes me up. It gives me headaches and nightmares.
And my dreams be all jacked up.
So I tell them all the time, I'm like, please give me the remote. Okay, I got to watch something educational while I'm sleeping. He was like, why don't you matter? Are you sleeping? I'm like, because it's coming in. Like I can
or give me some scripture or something.
Yes. So we do those videos. We do those scripture readings at night. We do all that in the last several months. And I think it was like a month ago, he was like, I had a dream, and I think the dream was from the Lord or whatever he said. And I said, see, the educational stuff at nighttime while we're sleeping is worth it.
Yes. Because I remember I said I won't be watching any more kid. I remember watching Hard Target as a kid. With a teenager.
Yeah.
And all night I was running from some men trying to kill me in New Orleans. Like, and every time I get downtown, I wake up. Right before they were going to kill me. Don't do it, y'all. I'm telling you.
Don't do it.
I know y'all like, what? Y'all may not, but I can't. That movie is like sketched. Like, don't watch at night. Watch it in the daytime. You're gonna watch it, man. Hard Target was. Whew. Y'all ever seen Hard Target? Don't go watch it. Don't watch it. I was a big John Claude Van Damme fan.
Yes.
Yeah, I was a big fan. But baby, after watching that one, I was like, felt like somebody was shooting an arrow. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm goofy. I like to have fun.
Funny.
But listen, y'all. Listen, this season is about to wrap up, so y'all need to catch up on all the episodes. We're about to. I feel like, but I almost feel at the same time that this is going to be a one of them seasons that just keep going. Oh, then I'm gonna let y'all go. I promise you. Y'all remember the song "Lamb Chop"? This is a song that never ends. Yes, it goes on and on, my friend. Some people started singing and not knowing what it was, and they'll continue singing it forever just because this is it may be like that. All right, Charlie Horse. All right. Come on, let's talk.
Yes.
All right. So I love y'all. We love y'all.
We do.
And I just pray that y'all are being blessed by what is being shared, because listen, we are the first partakers. Mm-hmm. And so, and when the Lord is dealing with us, and then sometimes y'all see me, I be caught off guard that I got
yeah.
I turn my Lord,
sure. I know that sometimes we're trying to play it cool while it's happening, like
yeah. But I look, sometimes I be like,
yeah.
And then I gotta lean in. Nikki, you see what he doing to me?
Right.
Today, on this day, what the Lord is doing. So yeah, but y'all, we love y'all, and we just pray that you're being blessed and that you will continue to allow the Lord to deal with your heart. And go get you a copy of Getting Back to Basics and Return to Reality.
Yes.
21 Days Becoming a Godly Wife. All right. So we'll see you guys at the next episode. Bye.
Thank you for joining us this week. Join us again next week so we can continue to grow as wives and wives in waiting.